We knew the world would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. I suppose we all thought that, one way or another.
Let's go back in time to August 13th in the year 1942. Currently, the Second World War is ravaging several nations. Thousands of military personnel and tens of thousands of innocent civilians are dying every single day. The Germans had discovered nuclear fission around 3 years prior, and Leo Szilard and Albert Einstein had later written a warning to Roosevelt about how the United States should be wary of a powerful bomb that can be built using this newly discovered science. With the bombing of Pearl Harbor and America's now full-time investment in the war, the Advisory Board on Uranium gave a green light on the feasibility of constructing their own atomic bomb. Soon later, head director Leslie Groves searched and arrived in Los Alamos, New Mexico to begin building the bomb. Los Alamos, whilst not the only site, was the most important one, as it was where the most vital part of the whole project would take place, that being the engineering of the weapon. This task was placed on the one person who anyone thought could pull it off, none other than Robert J. Oppenheimer. American physicist Robert Oppenheimer's impact on modern warfare and the Manhattan Project was far bigger than any figure at the time. His invention of the nuclear bomb was the biggest factor in ending World War II and causing the biggest international standoff, that being the Cold War. His invention would result in a turning point for modern warfare, as these weapons were far more destructive than what was available before his time. But who even was Oppenheimer? Born on April 22, 1904, Julius Robert Oppenheimer was raised in New York City, New York. In 1925, Oppenheimer would graduate from Harvard summa cum laude. Then in 1927, he went to the University of Frankfurt am Main, where he was taught by the legendary German physicist Max Born, and he acquired his doctorate. He would then move back to the US and teach at the California Institute of Technology and the University of California at Berkeley for 13 years, before he was reached out to by Franklin Roosevelt to be the director of a nuclear weapon war effort at the Los Alamos Laboratory. From this point on, Oppenheimer would dedicate nearly the rest of his life to developing the world's first nuclear weapon. In the end, Oppenheimer's accomplishment was achieved, and on February 18, 1967, he would die due to throat cancer because of his smoking problem. The Manhattan Project was a top-secret research and development project undertaken during World War II to create the world's first atomic bombs. Beginning in 1942, the project was given to the Army Corps of Engineers led by General Leslie Groves, who established the Manhattan Engineer District in Manhattan, New York. He pulled together thousands of engineers, scientists, and workers all across the nation, costing the U.S. $2.2 billion, making it the most expensive nationwide project of its time. As mentioned earlier, the project consisted of headquarters in Manhattan, New York, and 3 separate sites to execute the project. Oak Ridge, Tennessee was a uranium refinery, Hanford, Washington was a plant to extract the newly found nuclear element plutonium, and most importantly, Los Alamos, New Mexico, the constructing and testing site of the bomb. Oppenheimer was enlisted to direct the Los Alamos site and would be the head figure of engineering the bomb. Whilst many undoubtedly helped him in this feat, many, such as Hans Bethe, will go on to say that nobody else in the laboratory even came close to him in his knowledge. Oppenheimer's knowledge to the project was perhaps the only reason it could have been deemed a success in the first place. No one could say any other figure had much of an impact as him. The short-term impact of Oppenheimer's weapons will result in the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This was the first and last time nuclear weapons would be used in war, as governments realized the impact it would cause if they were to use more and more dangerous nuclear weapons. Not only did the bombing of both the cities kill over an estimated 200,000 people, it would also scare away all foreign powers from continuing in the war, causing everyone to surrender. This victory would be a massive win for America, as thousands of people had been dying every day in the war, and by the end, around 80 million people from all sides had died, making it the most fatal war in history by a large margin. If it weren't for Oppenheimer, it could have very well gone on for additional months or even years. Additionally, in that time, the Germans could have managed to build their own atomic weaponry, as they have been trying to do that during the war. This could have resulted in even more fatality and destruction if Oppenheimer hadn't put such a swift end to the war. Now on the flip side, the long-term impact of Oppenheimer's invention would be the world's first nuclear standoff, that being the Cold War. The Cold War was a nuclear standoff between the United States and the USSR. This meant that both sides began to stockpile nuclear weaponry and would keep on edge if the other power would attack, in which case both sides would offload their atomic weaponry, sending the world into a nuclear war which could have spelt doom for all of humanity. This potentially world-ending game of chicken began in 1947 following World War II and lasted all the way until 1991. This war would result in a long-standing stigma against Russia, which would be called the Red Scare. This stigma has led to both the US and Russia developing more and more powerful weapons between each other, which today could mean fatalities in the hundreds of millions if they were to be used. Now that we've discussed the impacts of Oppenheimer's invention, one question still plagues the mind of many today.
What if we made a big pile of bombs and exploded every nuclear weapon in the world all at once?
Or, in more serious words, what will the future consequences of these bombs be? Most suspect that the pinnacle of Oppenheimer's weapons could come in the form of a nuclear war. However, the odds of a nuclear war breaking out between countries is quite slim, as most countries realize the destructive powers of these weapons, and that it would likely lead to an extinction event for humans. But what if it did? Presuming you were to launch all of Earth's estimated 12,500 nuclear warheads at once, an estimated 3 billion, or 38% of the world's population, would die from the explosion alone, not even to include nuclear winter and radiation. Even if you only launched 1,000th of those weapons, 3 million people would still die, making it roughly 15 times as lethal as Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined. So to answer the question, will nuclear weapons have an impact on the future? Even in the best case scenarios, absolutely yes. Oppenheimer's impact has been very present ever since his work at the Manhattan Project. His nuclear weapons changed the way we view war and how large-scale wars are fought. Certainly, we will remember this incredible man for years to come, so long as nuclear bombs stay relevant in media and as we reflect on the past impact of them on Hiroshima, Nagasaki, World War II, and the Cold War. Have a nice day, and thanks for watching.